Hey everyone, I'm just out today doing the gardening thing, as you all are aware. I haven't posted an update in a while. That's because I've been trying to, but I've been busy with the newborn and new chicks. Well, I guess she's not newborn anymore. She's now 6 months, but she eats into the time. And with my son, who I love and adore. So I just wanted to give an update on my gardens and the chicks and compost, because there's been a lot going on that I haven't been making any videos on. So one of the first things is I did pull off of the hoop house. A lot of the plants were starting to get over humidified, and I've been slowly using the water jugs that I used for thermal mass as water in this bed, specifically right here, because I don't have a drip system or anything on this bed. But the cilantro is doing amazing. This is the best I've ever seen cilantro do in my life. These beets are a little bit slower, but these ones were closer to the outside, so I'm not too impressed with how they're doing. But these ones, on the other hand, are doing amazing, and they're starting to get some bulbs on the bottom. These ones are kind of middle. The kale is doing great. And this is the other plant of kale. The one that was in the center didn't ever really come up. And the peas, I think I had birds come in and eat the smaller starts, the seedlings that came up. Over in this bed, got my onions in. Peas are doing great. I put these here just to help keep them off of the peas, though it's not entirely working. I mean, off of the onions, not off the peas. Have this trellis that I put up here, and I'm hoping that the peas will go onto it. The blank spots, I hope to fill them with tomatoes here real shortly, and that's why I put that trellis up, so I can get the tomatoes in on that back side. Once again, just that more jugs for thermal mass. The onions are doing great. I got these from Dixondale. Me and a coworker ordered them together. There's some ringmasters, some can't remember the red ones, and then some Spanish. So just your typical onions. The broccoli looks great. We actually just transplanted these. We bought these transplants. The leaves on it look amazing. I hope to start seeing some shoots. But the big update that I really like is this drip system. It's on a little automatic timer, and I'll go over to the connection and show how that's done. These drippers are just cheap ones that I bought off of Amazon, and I have them set up to lightly drip, and so far it's keeping everything more than wet enough for just 2 minutes every day. 2 minutes, and maybe I should catch a video of it running. Maybe I'll do that, go turn it on up there, and then come back and show how it's doing. But the raspberry bush that we planted in this is doing freaking amazing. My wife, she cut it clear off down under, and she was like, I'm afraid that it's not going to come back. And it's coming back super good. But one of the things that I was worried about last year is this spring, when I went to move this raspberry plant, I noticed that there were roots attached to the dirt, and I thought, ah, crap, the trees have grown up into my raspberry plant. Well, step over here, I have this screen over the top of some raspberry plants. The roots actually went down from the planter into the ground, and they're starting to sprout trees, or not trees, but tops. So it wasn't a tree that got in, and I'm hoping we can let these grow. My son doesn't step on them, and I don't step on them because sometimes I forget they're there. Pull them out and replant them in a better spot. So that's why I put this over the top of it. This is just what I used to grade out my compost. I moved this setup, which I think I did do a video on. If I didn't, well, I know I shot some footage, but I'm not sure if I posted it. But I moved this into the garden. Once again, you can just get the compost from out right there. This stuff's drying out pretty bad just because I don't have much on it, which is kind of bad, but I mean, it's still fairly wet up in there. But I made it so you can get it from both sides. Need to put a latch on that, keep it shut. See that hinge there? So I get it equally. But I just grate it into the top here, and as I use it, I just keep adding more out of my other bins. I'm going to have more than enough compost this year. I've gone crazy, and that's really easy for me to do, especially when it comes to compost, but even crazier. So I will go show the drip timer and then come back and show you what it looks like. So this is the timer. It's a Dig. It was fairly cheap. I think it was like 20 bucks, but it just screws onto the tap here. So I put this Y here so I can get water on both sides for other watering needs. Sorry. Need to make sure that I'm looking in the camera and not just with my eyes. But that comes down to here, anti-backflow valve, pressure regulator, and then this filter here. So it's really simple. You twist the knobs and that tells you when it's gonna go. Right now I have it set up every 24 hours for 2 minutes. But if I wanted to manually turn it on, just leave it at 2, come over here and hit enter. And you can hear it click on. And then I'll show you what it's doing. So here in the garden, you can hear these whistle, which is something I don't like. But that's just what it does. And in the square foot garden, 2 minutes is more than enough, I'm noticing. I might have to change that as it heats up, but it is working great. The one piece that I ought to fix is this one down here. This is supposed to be that drip tubing, but I think it got clogged. And these are just some spices, so I've been having to water these by hand. And I got my helper here. So on the update of the chickens, we got 3 more chicks. My wife's really excited about them. They're called Easter eggers. They lay green, blue, and different colored eggs. But what we've done is we've took this coop that I got for free and we mashed it next to this one right here. And I made the run on this one larger so the chickens had more space to run and be free. And the grown chickens and the pullets can now communicate and get to know each other before we actually let them into each other so they don't rip each other to pieces. But the chickens are doing great. We have one hen that's broody. That's why we only have 5 out here right now. The other one, she thinks she needs to try to hatch the eggs. And as I've mentioned before, you know, I throw down the leaves here because then they poop on them, or all their other food waste goes into there, their feathers, and then I bring it over into my compost bin. And as I said, I've went crazy with the compost. It's almost full and it's at the beginning of the year. I haven't done much of anything. I found that Starbucks is a great place to get nice coffee grounds, and I've gone there a couple times and got coffee grounds. I also came across alfalfa, and that somebody was using as bedding for their goats, which I thought was weird. But I mixed that into here, and I actually am going to put a video, I think, with that in it when I talk about specifically how I go about making compost and why I make compost. But then I have this much over here that's finished, and it's probably just under a cubic yard here that I've been filtering and using for other things. I've also been throwing it on my lawn. The last thing I want to show are my potatoes. I did that Ruth Stout method again, and they're popping through. Other than I have this little spot of none and those guys, and they are doing freaking amazing. Makes me happy. I hope they do better this year than they did last year as far as yield, because the yield wasn't that great. But this year I have alfalfa, that same stuff I got from the people who are using it as bedding for their goats, leaves, and I even threw down some coffee grounds that I got from Starbucks. And the wood chips that I put in here, I think, is kind of hindering it a little bit, because that's all underneath all of this. I'm hoping that acts like a sponge to absorb the water so I don't have to water as much. Especially this year, Utah is going to be going through a bit of a drought. Well, we actually are going through a bit of a drought. Where I'm at, it's not as bad. But throughout the state, it's pretty sad for some places. Oh, actually, there's one more piece I want to show. I have done a video on this, but I got this up and going. This is my compost tea. You can see in there, brewing pretty dang good. Just get it out of there. And I've been using that in the garden. I've actually sold 5 gallons of it now, and I tend to sell some more because I'm not sure if I'm going to get to all of it before it goes way bad. But this has been one of the things that I've really liked that I've done, and it's good to see that it's actually helping kind of pay for some of the other things that I'm doing in the garden. Even though I compost, and that helps cut down on my fertilizer costs, the rest of the stuff still hasn't free, and it hasn't quite paid for itself yet. Oh, and the panels. I think I made a video about I was going to use these panels to keep the garden out. I got 2 there. So yeah, I fixed them up, and this is great because it keeps my son out of the garden. You guys get to see my whole backyard. But it also keeps the chicks out. I got them for free. It was one of the best things that I think I've ever picked up for free. So thank you to Facebook Marketplace for allowing me to have such a great find. And I hope to have it more cleaned up and more straightened up, but for the next video. But we'll have to see. Thank you for watching, and have a wonderful day.